Raj was a simple man. He worked as the night security guard at the old Minerva Towers in Mumbai. The building was tall, with 20 floors reaching for the city sky. It was a quiet job mostly. Raj had only one important rule to follow. It was a strange rule, one he never questioned. His predecessor, a tired old man named Mr. Verma, had told him on his first day. Between 2 and 3 in the morning, Mr. Verma had whispered, his eyes wide, "You must never ever use the main elevator. Take the stairs, my boy. Always take the stairs." Raj did not know why, but he always listened. The night had its own secrets, and he did not wish to disturb them. For 5 years, Raj had obeyed this rule without fail. The hours between 2 and 3 in the morning were often the quietest. The city outside would finally be sleeping, and the great building would hold its breath. Raj would sit at his desk, watching the small screens of the security cameras. He would see empty hallways and silent lobbies. He would sip his sweet chai and listen to the gentle hum of the building around him. The elevator doors on the ground floor remained shut during this forbidden hour. It was a silent agreement he had with the old building. He would not disturb its rest, and it, in turn, would keep him safe until the morning sun arrived. But tonight was different. The date was the 15th of June, 2025. The air was heavy with the coming monsoon. At precisely 2:17 a.m., a soft ding echoed through the lobby. Raj looked up from his newspaper, his heart giving a little jump. The doors to the main elevator had slid open. They stood there, waiting, like a silent invitation. He glanced at the security monitor. The camera inside the elevator car showed it was completely empty. There was no one there. No shadow, no movement, just the polished steel walls and the worn carpet on the floor. A cold feeling trickled down his spine. He had never seen it open on its own during the forbidden hour. His curiosity began to fight with his fear. Why had it opened? Was there a fault in the wiring? He stood up from his chair, his hands feeling a bit clammy. He walked slowly towards the open doors, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The old rule screamed in his mind, never use the elevator. But the sight of the empty waiting car was strangely compelling. It was just a machine, he told himself. An old faulty machine. Perhaps he should just press the button to close the doors and forget about it. He took another step closer, peering into the empty space, a decision wrestling within him. He felt a pull, a strange need to understand this mystery. Raj stood at the threshold of the open elevator, a deep sense of unease washing over him. He hesitated for a long moment, the warning from Mr. Verma echoing in his ears. Still, the pull of the unknown was stronger than his caution. He took a hesitant step inside, the polished doors sliding shut behind him with a soft, final thud. The small space felt suddenly colder. He looked at the panel of buttons. They were all dark, except for one. The button for the 13th floor was glowing with a steady, deep red light. It looked like a single angry eye staring at him in the dim light of the car. It was impossible. The 13th floor did not exist. The Minerva Towers was like many old buildings in the city. It was superstitious. There was no button for a 13th floor, only a blank space between 12 and 14. Officially, the floor had been sealed off decades ago. The story that everyone told was of a terrible fire. It had happened a long, long time ago, a tragedy that had claimed several lives. The owners had decided it was bad luck to ever use that floor again. They had sealed the elevator access and bricked up the stairwell entry. It was a forgotten place, a tomb within the building, holding on to its dark memories. So how could this button be glowing now? Before Raj could even think to press the ground floor button, the elevator began to move. It did not jerk or shudder like it usually did. Instead, it rose with a smooth, silent grace that was deeply unsettling. He watched in disbelief as the numbers above the door lit up one by one. 5, 6, 7. He felt a growing panic. He was not in control. The elevator was taking him somewhere he was not meant to go. He pushed the door open button, then the alarm button, but nothing happened. The elevator continued its steady, silent ascent, ignoring his frantic attempts to stop it. He was a prisoner in a small metal box. The elevator did not slow down at the 12th floor. It continued its climb, moving towards the phantom destination. The red light from the 13th floor button filled the small space with a hellish glow, painting Raj's frightened face in shades of crimson. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to his very bones, that he had made a terrible mistake. He had broken the one rule that was meant to keep him safe. The quiet ding sounded again, and the doors began to slide open. But the view that greeted him was not of a normal quiet hallway. It was a vision from a nightmare. a place that should not have existed. The elevator doors opened to reveal a scene of utter devastation. The air was thick and heavy with the smell of smoke and ash, a scent so strong it made Raj's eyes water. A thin grey haze hung in the air, obscuring the far end of the corridor. The walls, once painted a cheerful color he imagined, were now blackened and blistered, with long dark streaks where the fire had licked at them. The carpet was charred and brittle under his feet, crunching with every nervous step he took. There was no light except for the eerie red glow spilling from the elevator behind him. The silence was absolute, a dead silence that felt heavier than any sound. Raj took a tentative step out of the elevator and onto the burnt floor. The air was cold, a damp and unnatural chill that had nothing to do with the monsoon outside. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he could make out the faint outlines of doorways leading to what were once apartments. They were dark and gaping, like open mouths frozen in a silent scream. Whispers seemed to slither from the shadows, soft and indistinct, like the rustling of dry leaves. He could not make out any words, but he felt their meaning in his soul. They were whispers of pain, of fear, and of loss. He was an intruder here. He did not belong. He walked slowly down the corridor, his torch beam cutting a nervous path through the darkness. The whispers grew louder, closer. They seemed to come from all around him, from inside the very walls. Suddenly, he saw something at the far end of the hall, a small figure standing alone in the oppressive darkness. He stopped, his heart pounding against his ribs. As he raised his torch, the light fell upon a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old. Her dress was tattered and scorched, and her skin was marked by terrible burns. She was not looking at him, but at the floor, and he could see tears tracing clean paths through the soot on her cheeks. The girl slowly lifted her head, and her eyes met his. They were the saddest eyes Raj had ever seen, ancient and filled with a sorrow that no child should ever know. She did not seem surprised to see him. "You should not have come," she whispered, her voice a fragile, heartbreaking sound that seemed to echo from a great distance. "This is not a place for the living. This is our place now." Her words were not a threat, but a statement of fact, a sorrowful warning. Raj felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. He wanted to run, to get back to the safety of the elevator, back to the world he knew. Panic seized Raj completely. He turned and stumbled back toward the elevator, his feet clumsy on the charred carpet. The girl's sad eyes followed him, her warning echoing in his mind. He just wanted to escape this place of smoke and sorrow. He reached the spot where the elevator should have been, his hands outstretched to press the button, to feel the solid metal of the doors. But his hands met only empty space. He looked back in horror. The elevator was gone. The open doorway, the red light, the metal box that had brought him here. It had all vanished. In its place was a solid wall, covered in the same black soot as the rest of the corridor. He was trapped. A wave of pure terror, cold and sharp, crashed over him. He pounded his fists against the blackened wall where the elevator had been, the sound muffled and pathetic in the thick, smoky air. "No! No, please!" he cried out, his voice choked with fear. The whispers swirled around him again, closer and more insistent this time. The little girl was still standing at the end of the hall, a silent, sorrowful witness to his fate. She did not move. She just watched him with those ancient, tear-filled eyes. He was part of her world now, another lost soul on the haunted 13th floor. The darkness seemed to press in on him, and the smell of ash filled his lungs. The next morning, the day manager, Mr. Joshi, arrived for his shift. He noticed that the night guard was not at his desk. This was unusual. Raj was always reliable. Mr. Joshi called out his name, but only silence answered. He checked the security logs and then went to the main elevator bank to start his daily inspection. As he approached, he saw something strange. The button for the 13th floor, the one that shouldn't even exist, was glowing with a faint, pulsing red light. It was the only light on the entire panel. It seemed to be alive, a single beating heart in the cold machine. A deep sense of dread filled him. On the floor, directly in front of the glowing button, lay Raj's security guard cap. It was sitting there neatly, as if placed with care. Mr. Joshi stared at the cap, and then at the impossible glowing light. He remembered the old stories, the warnings whispered among the staff about the forbidden hour and the 13th floor. He felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He knew, with a terrible certainty, that Raj had broken the rule. The elevator remained still, its doors firmly shut, but the red light for the 13th floor continued to glow, a silent, sinister tombstone marking the spot where Raj had last been seen. Raj was gone. Only his cap and the building's dark secret remained.